In this video, I'm going to show you a little bit about the shaders that are part of Ferr2D. So first of all, the two main shaders are the Unlit Vertex Color and the Unlit Vertex Color Transparent. These are shaders that don't take into account any sort of lighting, but they do tint themselves based off of the vertex color, as well as solid versus transparent. Normally you want to have your fill material as solid because it will write to the Z buffer, and writing to the Z buffer helps reduce some of the fill rate issues that you might encounter. Transparent, of course, for your edges, you're pretty much always going to have to use that just to get the transparency correct. So there's a bunch of other ones that are also good possibilities here. So this is the list of them. We also have tinted texture vertex colors. So the tinted ones also include an additional, oops, I need the transparent one on this. So the tinted ones also include a tint variable that allows you to change the individual material color. And this is really useful if you're trying to change the color of your object during gameplay. The vertex color just doesn't quite cut it, because then you have to update every single vertex on the entire object, and that's not a good idea. So the tint is there for when you need to change color during runtime. We've also got the Unlit Wavy Textured Vertex Color Transparent. This one, basically, let me run this in order to show you, because it's going to look best in motion. So you can see here it's got kind of this wobbly bit to it. So you can use this for doing, any sort of wind effect or water effect or something along those lines. Couple of attributes that go with it. We've got wave size on the x-axis as well as the y-axis, so we can get motion going in all sorts of directions. The speed of it, so how quickly do you want it to move, how slow do you want it to go, as well as position scale. Position scale basically says, like how much motion is there going to be between individual points. So when you have a really small position scale, you're going to see a lot of movement all over the place, very different. Whereas if it's very large, then you're going to see everything moving kind of the same sort of amount. So if we bring this one, yeah, so at 1 you can see large amounts of movement that's very different in small distances. Whereas with larger stuff, if I bring this all the way up, you can see there it's starting to become pretty uniform. So it depends on what you want. You can tweak that, and it's a really nice shader to have available for you. Motion, just a little bit of motion, really adds a lot to a scene. So take advantage of it. It's a cool shader. Now we've also got a couple of other new shaders here. The lighting ones. I now have two-dimensional lighting stuff that takes advantage of the point lights. So first of all, there is lit 4 lights. I've got a whole bunch of settings here. 4 lights or light map plus 1 light. Now what that means is 4 dynamic lights, or if you have light mapping information for this, then it's light maps plus 1 dynamic light. This is 8 dynamic lights, or if it's light mapped, then 0 lights, 0 dynamic lights. So this is really good. It's pretty easy to play around with, and actually, if you take a look at these shaders, like light map colored and lit colored, so this is the light map colored, and the shaders are set up really easy. So if you need a new one with different settings, you can just change it here, like just copy it and paste it. Max lights 8. When it's this is during runtime. If there's no light map set up, then it just goes with 8 lights. If it's in light mapping mode, then it'll go with this one and it'll use 0 lights. So if you need to tweak that around, you've got some options. There's a really simple file to tweak. So and so what that looks like, let me switch this over. I've got some point lights in the scene, so we'll be able to see this right away. So Ferr, lit texture, this needs to be transparent, and then the fill material, Ferr, lit color. Okay, so here we can see this is what it looks like with the lighting on it, and so this is pretty nice. It's two-dimensional. It does this all in one pass, and it actually, in order to get it working like this, I had to do a couple of cool tricks. And it actually completely ignores any sort of angle between light and surface. So let me see if I can bring up a light here. This one. So if I take this and move it behind the terrain, you can see that it still illuminates the terrain even when it's behind. Now this is again part of the optimizations that I made. I went ahead and assumed, since this is two-dimensional, it doesn't really make sense to have a backside to that, so I'm just going to go purely off of distance. And that allows me to put in extra instructions and avoid some of the catch falls that you get with the regular per pixel shaders. So that's kind of a nice trick to be able to do. And it's going to look a little bit different from the traditional diffuse lights, just because it's a slightly different algorithm again. So when you are doing light mapping, there are a few things that you'll have to play around with to get things looking exactly the way you see it in scene. So yeah, just keep that in mind. But you can do this. So the big reason why I introduced these new shaders is because there's a couple of problems with the regular shaders, and let me show you this real quick. I'm going to switch to on the edge. This is going to be a transparent diffuse. So that's the transparent diffuse. You could see that it changed a little bit. It's not like terribly different, but the big problem you'll see is right here at the corners. So with the regular diffuse shaders, what Unity does is for each light that you have, it will draw another pass and transparently blend them together. So it's because the edges don't write to the Z buffer, you can't really write to the Z buffer with these edges because you'll get significant artifacts. So because we're not writing to the Z buffer, then it doesn't blend them properly with the additional passes. So the default diffuse shaders just don't work, which is why I've got these wonderful lit ones. So these are special. They're definitely a little special, but they should work for you. And they're relatively flexible, so you can tweak them around a little bit too. So that's all the shaders that are here in Ferr2D. If you've got any more questions about them, feel free to contact me, and I can walk you through a little bit more of that. But that's in general kind of what I have included. So thanks for watching.